Welcome to On the Couch once more. Tonight we've got a special guest. It's our regional bishop, Gary Koo. Gary, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Tell us a bit about yourself and your background.
Okay, well, I was born here. My parents migrated from Malaysia, grew up in the western suburbs, grew up in a suburb called Ermington, supporting the Parramatta Eels, and went to school around there.
Yep.
And became a Christian during university time. So I wasn't a Christian growing up, and meeting Jesus turned my life upside down, and that's why I'm here now. Married to Pearl, got two high school kids in year 11 and 10.
Right, that's 11 and 10. That's
year 11 and 10.
Yeah, no, year 11 and 10,
yeah.
same as I. We've got a third, but
okay.
In year 8. But how was that received in your family when you became a Christian?
Yeah. Look, becoming a Christian, it wasn't that much of an issue. I became a Christian after my mother died, so maybe they thought it was a phase I was going through, exploring spiritual things. That wasn't the problem. It became more of a problem when I got baptised and I could see that I was getting serious about things.
Yep. And
it became a big problem when I decided to change the direction of my life and go towards doing a ministry apprenticeship.
So, terrible stereotyping.
Yeah.
Ermington, you went to James Roos.
Yeah, I did.
High.
Yeah.
Medicine.
Yeah, that's right.
Trained as a doctor.
Yeah, trained as a doctor. Sydney University Medicine. Trained. Eldest son in the migrant family. That's what else do you do? Law, I guess. Engineering, accounting.
Yeah. So you are the great stereotype.
That's right, the great stereotype. Yeah.
And so you went to do a ministry apprenticeship.
I did. I went and did a ministry apprenticeship at University of New South Wales. We campus Bible study, and it was terrific. It was hard. It was terrific though, and the reason I did that was, again, given that background we were talking about, for migrant people, it's always about making the best of an opportunity, working hard, and trying to establish yourself in a new country and find security in that. So it was always, as the eldest son, it was always that pressure to achieve and to do more. And I say this to a lot of people. The thing about climbing ladders in life is that when you get to the top of the ladder, all you find is the bottom of the next ladder. Yep. There's no end to that. And here I was, having become a Christian, and then someone in the sermon says that God treats us on the basis of grace, that it's not about us climbing ladders to reach God, but God reaching down to us and God giving us everything for nothing. And that, I found that so extraordinarily revolutionary and so liberating. I just thought every single person like me, every migrant kid needs to hear that. Yeah. And if I had the opportunity to tell people about that, I'd take it. So that's where it came from, is an understanding of grace which just transformed my whole worldview.
And so thinking about those ladders, you obviously were a Christian for a little while, ministry apprenticeship, then into church-based ministry. Yeah,
well, I didn't start off as an Anglican, so some of you might be surprised by that. I actually started off in an independent Chinese church called Chinese Christian Church at Milson's Point, right on the same street as Luna Park, opposite the Harbour Bridge. Right. Interestingly enough, a good friend of mine there is Bishop Peter Lynn, so he also came from that church.
Right, you were both there.
And Dan Wu, one of the lecturers at Moore College, also from that church.
So, and is that just a cultural thing? So you were converted at Sydney Uni through Chinese student connections?
No, not. Actually, I got converted.
You're Malaysian background.
That's right. I actually got converted at Sydney Uni through student life.
Right.
So I was converted at Sydney Uni. When you go door knocking, the equivalent of that on a university campus is people doing what they call library lawning. So I was on a library lawn one day, and some people from Campus Crusade, Student Life, came up and shared the gospel with me. I happened to be working with somebody at Macquarie Centre, at what was then called Grace Brothers Selling Televisions, who was part of Student Life. I told him about this encounter. He encouraged me to do Christianity Explained. And basically, in preparation for Christianity Explained, you open Mark's Gospel. And I read Mark's Gospel. I was supposed to read 2 chapters. I ended up reading all 16. And I think I became a Christian just by opening the Bible.
Yeah.
So that guy was going to Ryde Baptist Church. So our first church was a Baptist church.
Yep.
So I went to the Baptist church, got baptised there, but because I wanted to reach out to my father, who was Chinese, and I had friends at Chinese Christian Church, I thought he's not going to go to your local Baptist church, but he's more likely to go to the Chinese church.
Yep.
He came with me to that church for a year. So that's how I started the Chinese church. I was going to 2 churches, and in the end I had to make a choice, and I stayed with the Chinese church, even though it was a long, long way from Irvington.
Yeah. And then you went, you talked about ladders before, and you get to the top, you realise there's the bottom of the next one. In some ways, church life could feel like that in going through ministry, lay ministry, and then ordained ministry, then being a senior minister, and now you're a bishop. Yeah. There's archbishops next, but we won't go there.
No.
What did you lose each time you sort of stepped onto the next ladder?
Hey, that's a terrific question, actually. Can I tell you what I lost when I went from being a doctor to being a ministry apprentice? There was a change in identity. That's what I lost. So I remember having lunch with all my friends at this lovely location, next to the harbour, and I was thinking about their futures and where they were heading, and my future, where I was heading. We were going in opposite directions. There was a real sense of loss at that point, that I was going to be different. Yep. And insecure, and financially insecure. It's a different type of insecure, and just that. It's strange. You're just heading down a different path to your peers. So there's that isolation there. Going from being an assistant minister to senior minister, actually even going from an apprenticeship to become a minister. The first church I was a minister at, Chinese Christian Church, I was actually the minister of my peers.
Right.
And all of a sudden, they weren't my peers anymore.
The identity changed again.
The identity changed again. They were calling me things like pastor. And I was going, what are you talking about? Aren't I still me? But I wasn't, because they were saying things to me that they treated me differently. Not out of any sense of disrespect or weirdness. It was just my role had changed.
And when you say they were saying different things to you, is that just in terms of openness and sharing, or just addressing you differently?
There was a mixture of caution, yet also a willingness to speak about the deep things. So that was a real change in the nature of relationship. Yeah. So, and I ended up marrying them and dealing with marital problems and all sorts of things like that. So, yeah, that was again, that's a sense of being the different person again. Going from being an assistant to senior minister. Again, I just like being one of the boys. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I'm reasonably egalitarian in my viewpoint. And there would be times when the team said, no, Gary, you're the senior minister. You need to do this. You need to do that. I said, well, why can't we all do that? And that's because we're not the senior minister. You are. So again, there's that sense of being different. And for the bishop role, same thing again. So it's a bit of a recurring theme, isn't it? And I remember the very first weekend I became bishop, I was at Tara Anglican School, where Dundas Tilapia were meeting. And I don't know if you remember, there was that terrible accident where this drunk driver ran over these little kiddies in Oatlands. And they asked me to come to an emergency prayer meeting that Tara was hosting. And I said, of course, I'm happy to come, and asked me to wear the purple shirt. And I went, okay, I'll do that.
The purple shirt being?
The purple shirt being the bishop's collar and a collar thing, the purple shirt. And I remember going there, and up front they were just thanking me for making the time to be there. And I was thinking, why are you thanking me to be there? Why wouldn't I be there? It's such a privilege for me to be asked to be involved in your community and be able to minister to people and to pray. But there's a sense that now that I was a bishop, it was a special thing I was doing. Yeah. And that was strange. It was so very strange. And I talked to my professional mentor about this, and he said, Gary, this is what you need to understand. You haven't changed, and people aren't talking about you at all. They're talking about the position. You need to get that in your head, that people are going to treat you differently, not because you're a different person, but because you have a different position.
Yeah. And so there's going to be, so obviously that change of identity has kept happening. In terms of the ministry you do, has that changed as well through there? And are there things that you, at each stage where you go, oh, I wish I was able to do that again, or gee, I'm really thankful I was able to step up and start doing?
Yeah, look, I think both. And confession time here in front of everybody. I think there have been times I've been a little bit ungodly, just in terms of always seeing the grass has been greener on the other side. So I'm not sure if this happened to you, Adam, but as you go up in seniority in a church, you tend to do less coalface stuff, less one-to-one, less training, even less Bible teaching to a certain extent. You spend more time on work health and safety, balance sheets, and HR. And I must admit, I've moaned a bit about that and say I didn't sign up to do work health and safety.
Yep.
But the thing is, though, I signed up to serve. I signed up to serve God's people. I signed up to give Jesus glory. I signed up to help people grow in the gospel. And if this is my role to play at this point, then it's my role to play.
Do it, yeah.
And by my role well, it allowed other people to benefit from that and multiply the work of the gospel.
Yeah.
So I was being selfish at that point, is what I'm trying to say. And can I just say, with me becoming bishop, it wasn't something I jumped at, especially because my wife was very reluctant. We just finished a building project. I don't know if you knew that. So we'd be 1 year after a building project where we're just settling in, and this was the time now to make the most of it.
And the building project, I mean, that
took 5 years.
Okay.
So it's time to go. We're having, time to make the most of it, put structures into place, change, and just really crank up mission.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I get this phone call and say, Gary, I want you to become the Bishop of Western Sydney. And Pearl says, this is not the time for us, Gary. And I went, I don't know. One thing led to another. Eventually I said yes.
Yep.
And coronavirus hits. And I'm medically trained in the Episcopal team. And in a way, in God's timing, I'm the right man in the right place.
So that's been a significant blessing for in the background for dealing with government and leading us through this time.
Yeah, I haven't been giving medical advice. I've lost my 000 number. I haven't got my licence to kill anymore. But there's a sense that being medically trained, I understand what's going on. I understand public health. I know how to talk to doctors and the like. And Pearl said to me the other day, look, I wasn't happy when we made this change, but I can see God's hand in this, that you are the right person for this time.
Yeah.
And that's reassuring. So I think, long story short, I think we just need to be open to serve and stop thinking about what we want to do, but actually what's best for the kingdom.
Yeah. Well, certainly pass on our appreciation both to the rest of the bishops and the Archbishop for all your labours behind the scene, but also to the government. It's the weight that they must be feeling. Their certain lack of sleep, I'm sure, for them, and changing hair colours through this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do pass on our regards and our appreciation. We're all frustrated, but I'm sure their frustration is beyond all of ours.
Yeah, it's a time of great humbling, isn't it, Adam? Just in terms of we are frustrated, but here is this indivisible foe that we're finding so hard to fight. We've done very well, but it's just a reminder, isn't it, that one, we're mortal, and two, we're not in control.
Yeah. Well, brother, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me.
Be assured we continue to pray for our leaders regularly, and you're part of that. Okay. And thank you for joining us on the couch.
Lovely to be here.
G'day, Toms. It's Toby here. Welcome to my couch. I'm stepping up the ladder to take over the last part of this On the Couch episode. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some 5 R's very quickly for Tuesday's passage, Luke chapter 16, and the parable of the shrewd manager. It's a bit tricky. Some people have questions about it. Hopefully this is helpful for us in understanding what's going on there. Let's start with R1, retell. What's happening in this passage? Well, Jesus tells a parable. Pretty simple. A bit more detail. What happens in this parable, in this story? Well, verse 1, there was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions. So he called him in and asked him, what is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be manager any longer. That's the problem. The manager is accused of wasting possessions. He's going to lose his opportunity. He's going to lose his job. What does he do? Well, he scratches his head and then he thinks, I know. He calls in his master's debtors, those who owed money to the rich man, and he slashes their debts. He cuts down how much they have to pay back. What's this going to do? Well, maybe he'll still lose his job, but he's winning some friends, isn't he? for the next stage when he's lost his job. He's got some people who are pleased with him, who are happy with him. But the curious thing about this passage that stumps people is how the rich man, the master, responds. Have a look at verse 8. The master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. For the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. The master commends this steward. Surprising, isn't it? Well, let's keep working through the R's, and hopefully that help unpack a bit of what's going on. React. How are different people reacting to Jesus in this passage? Well, it's the disciples that Jesus is speaking to directly, but they're not the only ones there. And we get the reaction of the Pharisees described for us in verse 14. Have a look. The Pharisees, who loved money, heard all this and were sneering at Jesus. The Pharisees hear and sneer, notably because they love money. It's their love of money that's been offended. It's getting cut by what Jesus has said. This is important. It's the love of money that's somehow related to what this parable is speaking about. And some of the other things he says after it bear that out, don't they? And as we look at them, it reveals things about Jesus and his priorities, doesn't it? And the third R. Have a look at verse 9. Jesus says, I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourself, so that when it is gone, you'll be welcomed into eternal dwellings. What's he saying? Prioritize eternity over the temporary worldly things of now. Prioritize relationships that last. Again in verse 11. So if you've not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? He's saying there's things that are more valuable than worldly wealth, than the money in your pocket here and now. Eternity. And most helpfully, I think in understanding it, verse 13. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. See, in the parable, there's the rich man, the master. But there's actually the option of two masters, isn't there? There's the master who entrusts worldly wealth to us in the here and now. And there's the master, the false master of that worldly wealth that we can be ensnared by, that the Pharisees were ensnared by and loved instead of loving the true master. This is this comparison. Who are we serving? God or money? And I think that helps us untangle that kind of strange, the surprising commendation of the master. Why does he commend this manager, this dishonest manager? Because he had acted shrewdly? Well, it's because at this moment he's realized that eternity is of more value than the worldly wealth here and now. It's that he's realized that the worldly wealth is actually given to us to serve that greater purpose. Money and possessions and houses aren't to be stored up for their own good or for our own selfish benefit, but are to be expended in light of eternity. Well, the fourth R, reason. Why is this here in this passage? Well, it addresses definitely a need in the Pharisees to hear this, doesn't it? And it's great that Luke's recorded it because we all have the temptation to love money. The world ever since has been filled with that danger. But additionally, it addresses a direct need that arises in the passage beforehand. At the end of chapter 15, the parable of the lost son, Jesus says that the father in that passage is accused by the older brother of wasting possessions. He says, why have you killed the fattened calf for this disgraceful younger son who's returned? It's implying it's wasted, isn't it? And so out of that question, out of that accusation, then comes this next parable that addresses what is the right way to use worldly wealth. What is the right priorities to drive our thinking around treasures? Or the last R, how do we respond? How do I need to respond? How do you need to respond? Well, it needs to hit us here in our wallets, in our cash. What do we do with money? Do we love it and cling to it and store it up and invest in worldly here and now wealth for our own good and security? Or do we use it in light of eternity? Do we spend it and invest it in such ways into God's kingdom that we will be building relationships that last for eternity? That's the question for me to think about, and that's the question for you to think about as we read this passage. I'll see you next time.